My name is Ann Stauffer, and I want to welcome everybody to our webinar. This is actually the second webinar being held by the Grassroots Food and Agriculture Network, which is part of Sierra Club. This webinar focuses on soil health and food security. And it's focusing a lot on what we call local food systems, sustainable food systems that are equitable, healthy, and resilient. We held our very first webinar focusing on the 4 per 1,000 initiative, which again is healthy soil and food security, on March 26th. And strangely, as we all know, a lot has happened since then. And so this webinar is really timely in terms of addressing the security of food and food systems. What happened on the first webinar was really fun. We were able to hear a recorded message from Paul Liu, who is the executive secretary of the 4 per 1,000 initiative. And he was able to share with us what that initiative is, how it came, when it was signed, which was in 2015 at the end of the Paris Climate Change Agreement. So the overall focus then of this webinar, again, is on local food systems. On the very first webinar that we had, we were able to talk a lot about the importance of soil and the importance of healthy soil, because healthy soil is really the foundation of a lot of life on Earth. Without it, we wouldn't have a lot of health or life. So what we really talked about was and it relates very much to tonight's topic, which is how do we create a secure food system for everyone? How do we make it equitable? And so one of the things to think about is that you've got to have healthy soil. That's sort of number one. And healthy soil is related to healthy food. For instance, if you have a lot of nutrients in the soil, which is healthy soil, then you have a healthy food, right? You're eating healthy food. And on the opposite end of that, of course, if you have degraded soil, you have food that is not so healthy. The other thing to think about with healthy soil is that it improves what's called the soil structure, and the soil structure of food is related to how it functions. So if you have really good soil structure, you have soil that's porous and that has space in it for water retention and root systems and plant life and microbial life. So that's so having healthy soil is crucially important in terms of the supporting life and supporting water. The other really important element of healthy soil is that it stabilizes the climate. And the way that it does it is, again, it sequesters the carbon out of the atmosphere. But primarily what it does is it allows for plants to grow, and then the plants then can photosynthesize the CO2 out of the atmosphere and then store it in the ground. One of the main things is that, which is what we'll talk a little bit about tonight, is the healthy soil helps build resilience. And resilience is important, and especially today with climate change. So if we have farms that are resilient to climate change or changes in weather, temperature, storms, freezing, then we're going to be better able to manage these changes in climate that we're seeing. And so what I want to do now is basically pass the microphone over to Paul. But one of the things to think about is the flow of this webinar will be, I'm doing just a brief introduction. Paul McCullough is going to talk, and then Klaus is going to talk about kind of what's happened now, the disturbance in the food system that we've seen, the weakness in the food system that we've seen because of the coronavirus and the economic situation that's happening. So, but what we want to do is we want you to share your ideas, any questions you have in this Q&A box down below. And then what we will be able to do then is we'll take your questions and then we'll address them live during this webinar. So I appreciate everybody being here. It's very exciting, and I'm looking forward to having a really good discussion on solving some of these issues. So now I'm going to hand it over to Paul McCullough.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to tonight's program. I'm glad so many people could make it. Tonight we're going to discuss our current situation, which is not good. Everybody's probably noticed the shortages in the stores, the people hoarding certain things, items not being able to be found. You may have also heard in the news how a lot of our meat processing plants are, the COVID-19 cases are exploding. And a lot of those plants have been cut down, and they're warning about shortages of certain foods. So what we'd like to talk a little bit about tonight is how do we cope with that. And this current crisis isn't going to go away real soon. In fact, it's liable to get worse as the year goes on. Of course, we need more testing. And until we get that, it's not safe to really, we need to keep the social distancing going. You don't know who has it. This stuff can be passed on by people who aren't showing any symptoms. So it's going to be hard to get back to normal. We could be in this for a while. We need to come up with a plan on how to deal with this. In fact, right now, our vulnerable populations are being impacted more than a lot of us. And their access to food was already messed up. A lot of them live in what we call food deserts. It's hard for them to access any kind of fresh fruits and vegetables. It's going to get that way for more and more of us as this goes on. So we're looking for what things that we can do to support our local communities. Our food and agriculture team really is focused on local and regional food systems anyway, and now we see how important those things are. They're even more important as this crisis deepens. We've got to find ways to support our local communities. A dollar spent in the local community circulates around and enriches people in our own communities, rather than going to a family down in Arkansas that owns Walmart or the other big stores. The corporations are not in trouble right now. They're benefiting, and the plan coming out of Congress looks like it's going to benefit these large corporations even more. Maybe we'll talk about that a little more as we go on. But we're looking for ways that we can help our communities, our families, and our neighbors pull through this crisis. What we'd like to discuss are things that we can do to create lasting connections in our own communities with our local food producers, our local businesses. How do we keep them in business? A lot of the help that's coming from the government is only going to help big corporations. They ran out of money for small business loans. We need to be on our representatives and tell them we need them to support our local businesses and our local people. So what we'd like to do as we have this discussion is we'd like you who are tuned into our webinar tonight to share your ideas. Tell us the stories about what's going on in your communities. Tell us if you know of any good plans or any good things that are happening, so we can spread that around and support, again, our local farmers, our local businesses, our local communities, our restaurant workers. All these people are hurting right now. And we'd like to share things. Maybe we can come up with plans to help people. So again, we'd like you to take your mouse down to the bottom of your screen. There's a question and answer box down there. We'd like you to put your questions, your comments, your ideas, and share them with us so that we can discuss them later. And now we'll move on.
Yeah. I'm sorry, so the discussion problem. Okay. Where are we? 4,000 summary?
The problem.
The problem. Okay, so that's I'm sorry. So okay, let me just not read so much, but speak high level on what happened here. We have lost some 22 million jobs over the last month, and most of those jobs are from within the service industry, fairly low income jobs hitting population groups that are already vulnerable to start with. Then you think that 40% of the American public can't handle a $400 emergency. People are so dependent on their weekly income. They are just flat out of money to pay for rent, utilities, and car loans. But more importantly, they can't buy food, the most basic of all needs. The unemployment offices are completely overrun. I mean, what should take 2 to 3 weeks to get unemployment may now take 8 weeks, 10 weeks. People can't even make a phone call to the offices to get their application in. So this is a short-term crisis that is really moving ahead of us, getting really big, really fast. So the most immediate reaction has been to open up food banks, soup kitchens, that provide people with meals and so on. But the problem with that, of course, is that it circumvents the entire regular economy, and in particular the small business community. That normally, the restaurants, the farmers markets, the local grocery stores, the bakeries and butcher shops and so on, they're all closed down, and they don't participate in any of this. And the consumers who would like to buy from them don't have any money, so they are shut out of the local market. So the market is demonetized. There is no liquidity in the local community. So the most important thing we are arguing here is that we have to somehow get money into the hands of consumers to empower them to buy food that is, first of all, appropriate for them, that matches their real needs, and then it is also healthful, and not junk food that comes from some federal warehouse. So the thoughts that we would like to pursue here is how can we achieve that? How can we funnel donations and money that comes from the government into the community, into the right places, so that we maintain our business community. And what we really want to say here, this crisis could have catastrophic impact on the regenerative organic business sector, because what's happening right now is that Amazon and Walmart are staffing up by 250,000 people. McDonald's, Domino's Pizzas have record-breaking sales because they are positioned right there. Both Walmart and Kroger are in the process of accepting SNAP benefits for takeout orders and online ordering. So the industry is running ahead here, and the regenerative organic business sector at this stage is completely disorganized in responding to this crisis. So we wanted to see what can we do to think about this community level, to engage here, and what can we possibly do to not have the industrial agricultural system run away with that. And then 3-4 months from now, we're looking at a shambles that was entirely foreseeable, but it would be very difficult to undo. So with that, I'm going to give it over to Carl.
Okay. So please keep in mind that when Paul talked about sequestering carbon, or I think Andy too, into the plants and into the soil, we're talking about healthy soil literally sequestering tons of carbon per acre, per year, when it's done right. And if you spread that over millions of acres of farmland, this has the potential to make a very substantial dent in atmospheric carbon. So we're not talking about something that is just nice and just organic, but if spread sufficiently quickly and widely, can really make a difference in the world. Most everybody has probably heard the phrase, think globally, act locally. That was Rene Dubos who coined the term. He was a microbiologist and an environmentalist. And more people are being pushed to do that. I would say also, there's one phrase distilled from something that John Muir said in a few sentences. Everything is connected. And we're finding that out now. People who hadn't thought about that before are seeing it more and more clearly. You pull a string attached to one thing, and it turns out to be attached to everything else. So we know that how everything is connected. Well, we have soils that are different in all sorts of areas of the country. So is climate, so are weather patterns. For instance, prevailing winds are different in different locales. Everything is individual, whether it's a particular location or a region. Excuse me. Even neighboring farms. So I'll give an example from my farm. It's a hill farm and it's topped by a forest. So what happens at the tree line of the forest, just with wind, affects moisture and temperature in the adjoining fields. My next door neighbor, barely a half mile away with open fields, has very different conditions. Now, obviously, in general, for the region or even the state, there are many commonalities, but it can be that individual on a really local basis. So the sunlight, the wind, the moisture, the bugs, and other small animals at a very local level affect what you can grow. So in recent years, more and more people have been connected with CSAs, Know Your Farmer programs. We're all familiar with the increase in organics over the last 30 years and farm-to-table awareness, and also in recent years, the growth of food co-ops with a certain emphasis that I've noticed anyway on areas that are known as food deserts. So we no longer, because of this particular crisis that we're in now, we no longer have to look far ahead to see the breakdown of what we've become used to. For instance, Sonny Perdue the other day said he wants to reduce farm worker wages to make it easier for the big farmers to cope. But of course, they have inadequate protection, just like many healthcare workers. So what happens to the food supply when it's compromised by fewer workers in the fields and fewer truckers because they're getting sick and some are dying? And you can see how this snowballs to every aspect of our lives. Think also, what happens with the people who keep our water and electricity flowing? Everything's connected. So it no longer takes much imagination to grasp this idea and how fragile our society is when one string is pulled that's connected ultimately to everything else. So while localization has been slowly growing in recent years, it's now moving rapidly closer to a necessity for local and regional food systems. I'll give you two quick examples that I know personally. Hemp is finally largely legalized in many states, perhaps most at this point. But there are two main products, CBD oil, which is very good medicinally, but growing it is an intensely industrial farming process. On the other hand, there's industrial hemp, which you can also use the leaves and make medicinal products out of it, but it's not like the oil, and it's grown completely differently. It can be grown organically, and it has thousands of uses. So imagine in this period now, where more and more people are out of work, in my area, many of the counties in upstate New York have been depressed for years. So imagine industrial hemp being grown with so many uses that regional processing plants can turn out paper, rope, sails, and beautiful fabric for clothing. It's just one little example that can be realized, and more farmers are starting to grow industrial hemp. The other example is seeds and seedlings. I'm now working with a group of local folks to create both seeds and seedlings to donate to food banks, anticipating the obvious. And if anybody has seen the pictures on TV or in articles, lines of cars, sometimes miles long, at food banks, Houston, Detroit, elsewhere. It's horrible. And we're just at the beginning of this. And today I heard for the first time on TV, the head of the CDC saying he's anticipating the second wave of coronavirus in the fall that will be much worse than this one. So we have to do what we can now to, in anticipation of that. So what this local group is doing, this is a very rural area. The biggest town for miles around is 13,000 people. But there are many gardeners in addition to the farmers, and especially master gardeners. And it turns out that master gardeners have to be certified by local agricultural extension branches of the land-grant colleges and universities. And they're expected to share what they grow. It's part of their qualification. So we're having this grow to share program. Plant an extra row for others. But this not only helps to feed people who are in dire need, it helps to build community and a democratic mindset, taking control of our own lives. So we get to know more of our neighbors and encourage this democratic mindset so that people become increasingly resilient and more cooperative with friends and neighbors to take more and more control of our own lives. Everything is connected. If there are any comments or questions that you might want to deal with now, Anne, that would be a good thing.
Yes, there is. There's a wonderful question from Jenny Pell from Maui. And Jenny, I just texted you. If you would like to ask this question live, let me just, I will go ahead and read her question. So it's a great one. So this is Jenny Pell from Maui. She's the project manager of Ohana Gardens, a county-wide homegrown version of Victory Gardens. Their goal is 1,000 backyard gardens and 10,000 food-bearing trees and 100 community gardens when allowed in 1 year. The strategy is offering a seedling subscription service, a full tray of seedlings every month, ready to plant. And the question is, what is the best place to find grant money for our nonprofit, and can you discuss funding sources?
Ooh.
So it's a great question, right?
It is. I am not a money person. I wouldn't pretend to answer.
Yeah, maybe I suggest to put this question into the queue and then see how we can get back. What we can probably do best is to connect you with a grant writer. That's actually a profession. I mean, there are professional grant writers out there that take a commission on the money that they're generating, maybe 2-3% or so. And that's the best way because they know all the regulations, they know where to find the right forms and how to fill them out and so on. So maybe we can catch that as a follow-up.
And there may be
Yeah.
some people on this call who will be able to offer ideas and suggestions.
And I would like to add that the program, if you have farmers markets in your area, the people who run the farmers markets through the USDA also provide grants to promote local food systems. So that would be one place you could contact if you have a local land grant university would be another place to contact. But try contacting your local USDA representative and see if that leads anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we move on?
Yes.
Okay. So we in our team we have looked at what are some options that that may be helpful and where we may be able to engage with lobbying or calling our member of Congress or our city council and so on. So one program that is already out there, it's very efficient, it's valid in lots of places, is the SNAP program, food stamps basically. So many farmers markets, some individual farmers are already taking it. Most grocery stores already process SNAP benefits. So there are negotiations underway to make those more broadly available. And unfortunately, the people who ran with this idea is Walmart and Kroger, which are in the process of rolling out a national approach to accept SNAP benefits for online purchases and redemption. So far, we are behind the curve here, but there is a double up program that I wanted to point out here. If I click on it, oops, yep. Sorry, what is this thing here? I don't know how I got this thing into the middle here.
It says double up.
Is that Q&A or is this, okay, sorry. I can get it over. So there is a double up national network. And then the beauty of this is these things are administratively pre-structured. It's organized, right? It's a copy-paste kind of thing. Many communities already have it. Here in Bend, our farmers market has a double up program. So they take donations from the community. Somebody shows up with their SNAP debit card. They pay $10, they get a $20 voucher back, right? Or you can make it a $30 voucher. And so this is a very easy way of getting money into the economy. Sorry. So and the way it works is that the money is being bundled into a common pool. There is another program here that I thought is really good to point out is in Seattle. They already put in a voucher program, so emergency food vouchers. So they already have a contribution of $5 million from the city, and then United Way of King County and other organizations are chipping in. And so they provide a voucher, and then that voucher is redeemable only in participating stores, right? And the community decides who participates. So this could be, your farmers market, it could be CSAs, I mean, it could be anything that you want. And you can also restrict it to products that you want to sell. So we don't include sodas and snack food, for example, here. This is only for meat and produce and so on, and dry goods. So those are a couple ideas that would be available on really short notice. If that is of interest in the community. So then what other things are there? I mean, for once, and this is, I think, where the Sierra Club is so strong, and so talented, we need to have broad-based community leadership here. And that engages the city, for example, because regulations and zoning restrictions are hampering local business, small businesses. You know, they fall under these zoning laws and regulations. So, for example, to open up roadside stands, you know, instead of a farmer's market, which is pretty difficult to organize right now, maybe there's a farmer who partners with a few other farmers, and they're opening a roadside stand. And that may require some exemption from a regulation or zoning restrictions that would otherwise kick in. Another idea that's percolating, most every state allows home kitchens. So that means you can cook in your home kitchen and then sell that product. Now there are some, there is a class A and a class B type of home kitchen. But again, with loosening up the restrictions here a little bit, you could have a household with a good kitchen cook for 10 families, and sell that food. When you think about McDonald's breaking sales records right now, and Domino's Pizza, why not reroute that money towards home-provided meals, where you get a nutritionally sound organic meal for the same money that you get a hamburger? Because for a $7-8 hamburger meal, you can cook a nice kitchen in your home kitchen. So it also requires a local bank or some kind of financial institute to bundle the money, because there's so many people who would like to put money into this, and help the community. But it is difficult to do it in a way that actually helps in the bigger picture. To give someone free food does not turn your dollar inside the community, but to pay a farmer, to get money into a farmer to then grow food so he can pay for his gas and his seeds and so on, that is a lot more helpful. You need local media participation, because you need to have the information to a large number of people and encourage participation. And so the point of our discussion today really is, what can we do as a Sierra Club? Where can we engage, and how can we share our ideas? How can we partner with other people to see where we can make a difference here? So we wanted to stimulate that discussion, and looking forward to listening to your ideas. But first we have Paul with some ideas on where to engage here.
Okay, yeah. Hi, I'm Paul McCullough again, here, calling in from Michigan. Still real cold here, so we're not even thinking about preparing our fields, but I know in a lot of the country they are, and a lot of places are. California is already shipping a lot of produce here, Mexico, and so on. But what we'd like you to think about, some suggestions we have here, is to how to engage on a local level. First thing we want to talk about is to call your local city council, your county and your state legislators. And what you want to try to do is support some regulatory relief for these small farmers. Just a little, we're talking, it's going to be different in every location. But they need to be able to provide food to the local community. And with the social distancing in the farmers markets and so on, and the condition we have now, we may need to look at different channels, but talk to your local representatives, brainstorm, come up with some ideas, but ask them maybe for a little bit of local regulatory relief. Another thing is to call your members of Congress. Right now, they're again talking about some more bailouts. And unfortunately, these bailouts, especially with the SNAP program, are going mostly to Kroger, Whole Foods through Amazon Corporation, and to Walmart. They're going to be the ones that use up the SNAP, these double up bucks. And they're accepting that. We need to make it so that our local people and the local farmers markets can provide the same service and take these SNAP dollars and put that money into the local community. Another idea, couple ideas here are victory gardens. And that was going to be a good idea before we even had this crisis. That's a good idea for our climate crisis. Everybody to have a victory garden in their own yard and grow food rather than lawns. Use photosynthesis to draw down that carbon from the atmosphere and put it in the soil where it belongs. Our soils have been degraded. We've lost over 70% of our soil organic matter in a lot of cases. And the best way to put that back is through organic regenerative agriculture. Talk to your local master gardener. The local USDA representative can put you in touch with them. They can give you pointers on how to grow in your local area, what types of plants are going to work best, when to plant them, and so on. The local indigenous people are calling these resilient gardens because they do help the local area adapt to climate change, adapt to conditions that are going on right now, like storms, droughts, and so on. Make your community resilient to not only climate change, but to the crisis that we're going through right now. Think about maybe driving through the country and looking for roadside stands where your farmers are putting out their produce. It'll be coming ready soon. A lot of them sell eggs year round and advertise with a sign in their yard and so on. So think about supporting your local farmers. Again, keep in contact with your local farmers markets, see when they're going to open, see what kind of programs they have, see what kind of produce may be available. And another reminder about the small local kitchens. I have a couple examples here. My daughter works for the County Commission on Aging, and they provide Meals on Wheels. That they have a big, well-stocked kitchen with where they provide the meals. Right now, they're providing, instead of bringing a hot meal every day, they've had to go to a once-a-week delivery with frozen meals. But that kitchen is available, and as soon as we have testing available and so on, that'll be a good way to for the local community to support each other. Go in and prepare meals, organize teams to prepare meals for the local community, keep that money in the local community. When you're doing that, think about making your purchases from local farmers, support your community, keep everything in the community. There are, again, every community has Meals on Wheels, but the schools are another resource at this time. The schools are closed, but a lot of schools are still providing the breakfasts and lunches to the kids who qualify for them. And the bus drivers are dropping those once a week. They're dropping off a week's worth of breakfasts and lunches at the local bus stop. School kitchens, again, are huge, and they're set up to make lots of food to support the community, support the kids at school, but that can be changed to support the community. Try to procure the foods from the local community. The farm to school programs should be able to help immensely with that. Another thought we've had is providing easy to follow recipes. Some of the things that are going to be distributed through these food banks are bags of flour, rice, and other ingredients. A lot of people have kind of lost the art of cooking. The fast food industry, which is set to benefit right now from the programs that Congress is passing, the money that's going to be available. Instead of fast food, think about your slow food. Think about doing some baking, preparing meals in your own home. If you know of any real good, simple to use recipes, join in your community and post them on the local community bulletin board or to your local township or wherever you live. Share your ideas for easy to make recipes, and let's brainstorm and come up with some other good ideas. We don't have all the answers. We're hoping you guys have a lot of the answers. We hope you share them with us, and good recipes are a good thing to share. So I'm looking forward to going into some question and answers now. And Anne, do we have any good questions?
Oh, we have lots of good questions.
Right.
One of them is George Cunningham has he has a suggestion and a question. And he says many older, larger churches have kitchen facilities. Has anyone discussed this as an option for the open kitchen concept being discussed? Is there a way to link regenerative producers with these churches?
Could I take a first stab at that?
Yes, you may.
There are church kitchens. I mean, it's a great observation. Church kitchens, there are restaurants that are closed. There are cafeterias that are closed. So there's all sorts of hardware available. George, I think, also asked about moving the online SNAP program to a national system.
Yes.
Somebody else asked about better food transit. I think this is not the time to think about any big changes at the federal level, both with this Congress and with this administration. And that's another reason why we're emphasizing local and regional action. That's where there's a lot of room to maneuver still. And local initiative and local necessity, people feeling it in cities or towns or neighborhoods or rural areas. So that is I think, going to be a much more fruitful area for people to focus their attention on. And also somebody else asked about young farmers. There's the Young Farmers Coalition, which is a national group. There's also the Greenhorns, which is a young farmers group in the northeast of the US, the Northeast region. I don't think they're national yet. And there are probably other groups around the country. So these things already exist, and we should plug into them and help as much as possible.
Yeah, if I may step in for that signal on this question, it's a great question. I love the idea of using existing church kitchens, for example, because they're certified. I mean, they are inspected by the health department, and they are qualified for public consumption. The caveat I would put on there is not that they seek donations from Walmart and Kroger, to get food donations, but that they take the donations from their congregation and go out to buy food from their local farmers, so that you're creating a circle inside your community to make sure that the money, first of all, is being spent, that as it is available, is being spent inside the community with your local farmer, and process and so on. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, to get this part, not everybody can pick up produce from the farm and know what to do with it, right? So if there is a commissary kitchen in between to turn that into a meal and then provide a low-cost option, that would be amazing.
Okay. I think it would be good to hear from Jenny Pell, because it was the first question I asked. And she has commented that they have a grant writing team, but I would like to hear from her and have her come live, and she's agreed to do that, to share with us what she's doing in Hawaii. So Sean, can you?
Yeah, I'm gonna unmute her mic right now. Okay, Jenny, you are live. You can speak.
Her mic is still blocked.
Jenny, you need to unmute.
Got it.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay, thanks you guys for having me on live. It's really a pleasure to hear all of your ideas. We're on a completely parallel track with our project. We're called Food Security Hawaii. We've been engaging with the county. We got a proposal in for a line item in the county budget. I also sit on the Climate Action Committee at the county level. So we're trying to do that same thing you are, marry the regenerative ag to the local food solutions. We import 90% of our food. So we have a team of about 15 already in high gear on the Ohana Gardens project. I love the idea of being able to have the SNAP pay potentially for seedlings. In another project I worked on, we had to grow a row for the food bank. The biggest challenge there was that people would dedicate a part of their garden and drop off delicious fresh food and come back a week later and it was just sitting in the crates rotting because so many people don't cook anymore. So there has to be a real, follow up in terms of getting that fresh food into people's kitchens and into their plates on the dinner table. We're looking for, what I've been hearing is that state and county money is drying up very quickly as tax base plummets. And so where's the federal money? The USDA is one option. I hear that there's a flood of federal money coming available. I'd love to hear from Sierra Club, who's available. Is there a pool of philanthropic money that in the Regen Ag community, let's say Kiss the Ground, Carbon Underground, all these Regen Ag groups that are in motion. And I wanted to also build on your comment about this, the church gardens. Schools are closed. There's lots of commercial kitchens. They have walk-in coolers. They have parking. They have a flow of traffic already built in. It's a very logical place for food hubs, value-added processing, continuing to do school meals for children, and you can do aggregation and distribution right out of schools if the DOE could get on board with that. So for our project, for example, we know that in Victory Gardens, 40% of household food was grown right in the backyard level within a year to 2 years of Victory Gardens starting. 3 or 4 years into it, they all just collapsed because the war was over and they had weeds and bugs. And so what we are looking at for our project, and we want to make our handbook a replicable, scalable things for different communities. So we're thinking at that level as well. But what's the longer term enduring regen ag strategy that we can integrate into these backyard gardens strategies that people are just all over the country? Victory Garden iterations are popping up. So ours is a perennial food strategy, an integration with regen ag, and then this huge amount of support that has to come with how-to educational pieces, webinars, videos. I'd like to see salaried neighborhood permaculturalists, for example. So I could keep talking, but I just wanted to throw the concepts on the table and hear some feedback. I will reach out to our local Sierra Club chapter. I know them. They're always looking for money too. So, where is the money for these real homegrown enduring solutions that get food right on people's table and build really important skills right in our neighborhoods?
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's wonderful what you're doing. And yeah, we can all work together, I think, on figuring out, the funding at this point in time.
It occurs to me that I think somebody may have mentioned it in passing a few minutes ago, but there are fundraisers on staff at the Sierra Club in California, or wherever they're based. So just asking them for their ideas of where to seek funding might be a helpful avenue.
Yeah, money from the USDA, Jenny, the most certain and direct way for that money to come into your community is via SNAP benefits. But my understanding of SNAP is that they're pretty restricted in the type of products that you can buy with it. But if you take the SNAP money and turn it into a local voucher, where you have local community money added to it, it then becomes a different form of money and it has different options attached to it. So it gets a little complicated there. But you are basically creating another currency out of SNAP. You add to it, it becomes a different currency running under different rules. the easiest way to deal with this organizationally, I would think, is to turn your product into food and sell it against SNAP. You know, so if you have local farmers who bring their food to a central kitchen of whatever kind, and then they can sell that against SNAP benefits instead of giving it away, now you're monetizing the entire system. So it's not about charging people. I mean, I think that if McDonald's is breaking sales records right now, the market is not entirely broke. You know, there is money in the market with people buying pizzas and hamburgers. So why not instead buy, you know, a good meal from an organization that acts completely on a local level? So that would be my suggestion.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you, Jenny, for contributing, and Klaus for giving, and Carl for answering, for giving some additional information. There's a question by Ann Baskerville, and it has to do, it's a good question. I'm not sure how we can answer it, but it has to do with subsidies. And so it has to do with, could we advocate the federal corn subsidy money is diverted to fruit and vegetable production? She lives in Illinois, where corn farmers depend on subsidies. And if it weren't for the subsidies, I wonder if the corn acres would keep increasing. And that's, you know, that's a great question. How do we, overall, you know, with the subsidies? Paul, did you have some thoughts?
Yeah, I can maybe speak to that a little bit because I worked a lot on the farm bill, the last farm bill that come through, and you're absolutely right. We're way off track on federal subsidies. Most of the federal money goes to corn and soybeans. We already have those excess of these commodity crops. So much so that we're even making fuel out of our corn, which, you know, is not a good idea. It's polluting. It's not solving our energy system at all. So we do need to switch where the subsidy money goes. It needs to go to local farmers. Most of the way that subsidy money goes to these farmers and ends up in the pockets of Archer Daniels, Midland, and other corporations is through subsidizing crop insurance programs. The problem with the crop insurance programs, another problem, is that small farmers, farmers that grow a diversity of crops, don't qualify. Now they did just put in, we managed to get in a whole farm insurance program that's only just beginning. A lot of farmers aren't even aware of it yet. So that's another thing we need to educate farmers that this money is available. But most of that money goes to subsidize the production of genetically modified corn and soybeans, saturated with Roundup Ready herbicides, glyphosate, sprayed with insecticides, petroleum-based insecticides. They use petroleum-based nitrogen fertilizers, on and on and on. It's destroying our soil, it's destroying our atmosphere, poisoning our food system. The dead zone of the Gulf of Mexico, I could go on and on. I probably should stop and get back to, we need to advocate with our local leaders, but this is a federal program, so you need to contact your federal representatives, both your congressmen and your senators. Tell them we need to support our local farmers, our local small farmers, growing a variety of crops, and take the subsidies away from these commodity crops and put them back into the food that people eat. These commodity crops, corn and soybeans, are going to CAFOs to feed these, you know, large factory farms, and that all has to stop. That's one step we have to do, is change all that and get the money back into the hands of the local farmers, local communities. And so we need to advocate for on the federal level for that.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Paul, for addressing that. I have another question, I think, that in the time remaining, that is worth addressing, and it's from Bill Buckholtz. And he is mentioning, so his question is, can we build a public awareness campaign around the idea that organic and regenerative grown food is healthier for you, more nutritious, and thus strengthens your immune system, making you more able to resist coronavirus, for instance. And, you know, it talks about in eating junk food, you get sick, eating healthy, organic, you stay healthy.
Yeah, makes total sense. Yeah. I mean, we know that industrial food, I mean, we know you eat from McDonald's, you know, and you eat Domino's pizza. I mean, this is industrial quality food. It's nutrient deprived. You know, it has all the wrong ingredients. It has too much sugar in it. It's definitely harming your immune system. That is clearly so. And you know, the more, and in fact, right now the statistics show that the coronavirus is disproportionately harming people who have diabetes, obesity, heart disease, right? Who are already vulnerable because of their health not in top shape, particularly obesity and diabetes, right? Those are completely diet-related diseases, and they're very prevalent, particularly in low-income population groups, because they don't have the right money. I mean, they don't have enough money to buy organic, you know? And they eat a more industrial food product and processed food. So absolutely, this would be the right time to convince people that, you know, protect yourself. You know, if you get hit with this virus, your survival chances are a whole lot better if you have your health in control.
Yeah, I'd like to add one more quick point. Several groups have gotten together and come up with a new standard, a new certification to add on to organic food. It's called Regenerative Organic Certification. You need to look for that in your grocery stores. A lot of organic food is just industrial organic. It's only a little bit better than the common stuff you find in the supermarket. You may pay a little bit more, but how much is your health worth to you? So yeah, look for the regenerative organic label that's coming out, starting to appear now in a lot of stores, a lot of places.
Yeah.
But again, in my opinion, to try and think of a national campaign like that is, with everything else going on, such a campaign would be much more effective on a local, regional, and state level.
Yeah.
Just for the logistics and also for the organizations that are concerned about that area. It's just you get a lot more bang for the buck by taking that approach rather than trying to go for a national.
Also, if you do a home kitchen, you can advertise, you know, with the idea in mind that I'm going to cook food that makes you healthy and resilient to this virus.
Sure.
That could be a theme for your home kitchen.
Absolutely.
So we address another question? I think so. We have a question from Miss Julia Lowe. And her question is, their farm market is getting ready to open, but they are struggling with how to operate safely. Now is the time here to start something like organizing local farmers to get cooked meals to families instead of buying pizza. So how do we engage local restaurant owners in how to close the loop on getting fresh, locally grown and prepared meals to families affordably? Who cooks the meals in the church? Is that part done voluntarily or by the community?
I think Julie half answered her own question.
I know.
You know, there are good ideas in that. And again, that's local communication and talking with others to come up with the details of how to actually do it. But you've already described some of the elements, it seems to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point that most churches are, of course, volunteer labor. So that doesn't bring any money into the labor market, so to speak. So from that, now if they were to lend their kitchen to a professional team, let's say a restaurant group that the restaurant is closed and the whole kitchen team is out of work, and they come in and use that kitchen to prepare meals which they can then sell at low cost and so on, then that would be super helpful. And then you also have professional people preparing the food.
Okay. Well, I think it's 6:59, so
It would be great if we could figure out how to create some follow-up on this and stay in touch and communicate, and share resources. I have no idea how to do it, but
yeah, I think we need to compile. We have the list here of all the great questions and comments that came in, and we need to compile those and try to answer some of the questions that weren't answered, but also provide links to resources, and then email that out to everyone who joined our conversation tonight.
Right. Yeah, well, thank you very much. We had a really good turnout here. Appreciate everyone listening in, and hopefully we can do something in our community. And I would think we should stay together and listen in, and if we have an opportunity to showcase some great examples, maybe we can go online again and let some of our members here show what they have done and what they would like to share with others.
Good.
Yep, great. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. Glad you could make it.
All right.
Everybody stay
thank
safe.
you very much.
Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.